Good luck. Hi, guys, and to episode 30, I think it is, of the Knowledge Panel. And today we're talking about how to find your dream SEO job in 2023. Now, it's going to be a lot of things different this time round. Firstly, this is my last session. Next year, we're going to change around, and Jeannie Jones is going to take over running the Knowledge Panel shows. So we'll bring her in towards the end of the session if we can. Also, unfortunately, Orit's ill. She celebrated the Argentinian win way too much last night, and I don't think that she's recovered. So, but not to worry, because we have a really good spread. We've got Katherine and Paige here, and I think it's kind of great because we've got, young, medium. I'm going to call you medium, Paige. Young, medium, and old in here, so we've got a range of experience within the industry and a range of perspectives, and I think that's going to make for an interesting 40 minutes or so. So why don't we start with Paige? Paige, why don't you tell us about who you are, where you come from, a bit of your backstory?
Absolutely. So I'm Paige Hobart. I'm SEO manager at a company called Unily, who do employee experience software, or intranets you'll probably think of, Dixon, but like advanced for the future, where we're all remote and you've got to really get people connecting. So I've been there for about 4 months. Before that, I spent 7 years in agency, going from 10 people to 80 people, from a little SEO exec all the way through to head of SEO of the entire department across 2 countries. So really excited to talk about this topic today.
That's cool, because it actually fits it. I mean, so the product that you're working with is also not unrelated to the whole thing of what makes a good job. So that's going to work pretty well as well.
Oh yeah,
Katherine, let's hear about you, your background. Tell us about where you come from and what you're doing.
I'm Katherine Nwanorue from Nigeria, and I'm an SEO specialist at Fusion Inbound. So before then, I was actually a content writer, but I got into this really cool tech SEO mentorship with Alida Solis, and it lasted for about 3 months. And shortly after then, I found a job. So I'm really happy to share my experience on how that happened. And yeah, that's it.
I tell you, I don't think you could have a better person to have a mentorship with than Alida, I guess. As long as I mean, she's a busy person, so trying to get her attention might be hard. But she's everywhere.
She's so wonderful, yeah.
Yeah, incredible. So, how did you get that internship?
It was actually a program sponsored by the FCDC. I don't know if you've heard of them, the Freelance Coalition for Developing Countries by Chimamanda.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
Yes,
she's done a brilliant job of bringing developing countries in to the SEO world.
So there were like 10 of us in the first cohort, and Alida was the one who mentored us on mainly technical SEO.
Brilliant. That's really good. Well, thank you very much for coming in. I do appreciate it. I think it's only your second podcast as well. So
yes.
So thank you very much for coming in and joining us. We really do appreciate it. So guys, and for those out there that want to know my backstory, I've been in this for a long time. I got into SEO in 1999. For about 10 years before that, I ran murder mystery evenings for a living. I've never really worked for anybody else. I've always kind of worked for myself, running a murder mystery company, then running a SEO consultancy. Oh, no, then I worked for Majestic. So, no, that's an absolute lie. For a decade, I worked as the marketing director of Majestic. And now I'm the CEO at InLinks. So I've kind of got to the end, really. I mean, I suspect this will be my last job, if all goes well. Anyway, might have another book in me, but that's probably about it. So, guys, before we dive into other questions, I'd like to ask, if people don't have time to stay here for the full 40 minutes or so, what tip would you give people about, what they should be looking for the ideal job in SEO? I'll go with you, Paige, because you're kind of looking at me, raring to go.
My one tip for getting that job that you really want is kind of what I did when I was ready to move on, which was use recruiters to your advantage. If you've got LinkedIn, we're all used to recruiters slipping into our DMs, constantly hounding us, but actually reply to them and tell them what you're looking for. Tell them what salary you're looking for, tell them what role you're looking for, and they will go away and actually give you stuff that's relevant rather than just getting spammed all the time. Because they want to get you a job as much as you might want that job. So be really specific about what you're looking for, particularly salary as well.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Because I'd have gone a different way, but then again, I never really worked for anyone else, so so I don't think a recruiter has never found me a job because I never let them anywhere near me. Katherine, what about you? What tip would you take for people?
Yeah, for my tip is actually for those getting into SEO for the first time or looking for junior entry level positions. So I would say that my one tip is just put yourself out there. There's nothing to be shy about, right? So as a junior, you don't have the experience or the results to show for it. So you really have to share your knowledge, share what you know. If you can, just build a website, show what you can do. Don't just tell. And before time, you find something that clicks.
I'll tell you what, Katherine, though, if you're going to dive into podcasts and things like that, you're not going to be a junior for very long. You'll get up those ranks, because as an employer of my time, the one thing that's important is initiative. I think for me,
Yes.
a motivation. If the person is not motivated, then they ain't. It's just a drain on everybody's resources, including the employee, the employer. So just getting up and getting your arms dirty is part of the job, really, and I think that probably goes for any job. So my tip for people is that there are three drivers in what makes us satisfied as people, and the way I describe them are autonomy, mastery, and purpose. So in life, it is great if you feel like you're reasonably in control of yourself. It's not good if you have to do every single thing at every single time that somebody else is and you have to be at somebody else's beck and call. So try and make sure there's some autonomy in your role, and secondary, make sure that there's you master a role. If you're not going to be good at it, you're not going to enjoy it. And then the third one is try and find some purpose in life. And if you can find that through your work, that's a great thing. If you can't, make sure you find something else that gives you purpose in life. And then you're using your job to find it. But, in order to be happy, you've got to have those three things in life. That's my tip and my takeaway. So
yeah, that's a bit broader than just getting a job, isn't it? Be happy.
That's what happens when you're sort of approaching 60. You kind of have this philosophical mindset to everything, So probably slightly different to other people. But anyway, okay, let's dive into some ideas and thoughts then, and let's start with the difference between the types of role of agency side versus in-house versus freelance versus running on the tech side of things. So Katherine, you've already done two. I mean, you've only been in SEO for a year or less.
Less than a year, yes, less than
freelance a year. and now agency side. So why don't we start with that? Do you prefer, or do you think people are better off going into freelance as a freelance, or do you think a sort of a full-time role is a better place to be?
I'm actually in a contract role with an agency. I've not been in a full-time role, yes, but I would say that's actually a good start to. That's a good place to be in. You can afford to take things easily. Like, you can't get really overwhelmed. For instance, the first time I got into the role, it was too much, I'd say. So there are so many things. Like, in an agency, you work with so many clients at the same time, and there is so much to cover. So for an entry-level applicant or someone getting in, I'd say that really going towards the contract side and managing your time would be a good option.
Yeah. Time management is a hard thing to do, and it just takes a lifetime to master, I reckon. So it's I mean, maybe not for everyone else, but it did for me.
Yes.
Paige, what about you? I mean, you've been on agency side and in-house, and you're working in technology. So, what do you think is the best, the best, or does it depend on who you are?
Yeah, I mean, so I was 7-8 years at my old agency, Roast. I started as an exec. There were 10 of us. There were 2 SEOs. There was me and the other SEO. when I left, I was head of department. I had a team of almost 20 people across 2 countries within 7-8 years. That's mad. That's an insane progression that you can go from that to that in less than a decade. So I 100% recommend agencies for SEO starting out. You will learn so much so quickly. And I completely agree with Catherine's points about time management and getting your foot in the door, like being proactive in those interviews. I've interviewed countless execs to join the agency. I'm always looking for that little spark of, I really want to do this. I've had execs come into interviews with a full presentation that they've just signed up to, like a free trial of SEMrush. They don't really know what they're recommending, but they've really tried. And I've had execs walk into the interview and just be like, cool, yeah. I'm gonna hire that one that's gone the extra mile and actually tried to learn before even getting the role. So yeah, agencies are amazing. I have now relaxed. I think I've fully relaxed finally for the first time right now after 4 months of in-house. I didn't realize how like pent up I was working agency side for close to a decade. I'm like, oh,
I think this is it. I honestly, agency side, you know, I started Receptional, which is my agency, which I don't own anymore. It's still going. It's now got, I don't know, close to 100 people. But when I was running it, I grew it up to about 20 people. So I can't take the credit for how big it is now. But it exhausted me, honestly. No, I mean, okay, running the agency is one thing, but the thing that really exhausted me was having to deal with client after client after client and problem after problem after problem, whilst waiting for, back in my early days, you know, choose a search engine here, but you know, a few years in, Google deciding to have an update, and it kind of felt like you just got things right. And then, of course, the game changes. So when you wake up as an agency, in an agency role, you're the first line of barrage when something completely out of your control hits you. And the problem with that is you don't have autonomy. That bit of that I was saying about autonomy, it's taken away from you if you're doing your best to optimize a client's website within their budget and resources. So you can't be sitting there all day, every day on that client, and you haven't got time to explain every nuance of every single problem. And then that just means you wake up one morning and all of your clients, half have gone up, half have gone down. The half have gone up, you just, if you're lucky, you send them a quick email saying it's gone up. The ones that have gone down, it's kind of like you panic, you worry about it. But
you do have a team. That's what one of the things I do miss. You've got a whole team of people all in the same boat with you.
And you learn things a lot quicker. You will learn things a lot quicker in an agency side, won't you? Because you've got multiple problems from multiple different websites and multiple different demands. So probably...
and don't forget imposter syndrome. Little dash of that on top as well.
Yeah. There is a whole lot of that. I'm dealing with that right now. Like there are so many things it's easy to bring up ideas, but when you're like on the spotlight and they're like, okay, tell us, how do you think this should work? And all of a sudden you're doubting yourself, would this work? Is this going to make a difference like I think it would? Yeah, that's a whole lot of things to deal with.
It is. I mean, we all get imposter syndrome, so you can't get away from it. And again, a part of that is because ultimately we don't have control. It's not like, I don't know, if you are building a house, then you absolutely have control of, well, you don't. If you've got the plumber, you can't tell what the plumber's going to do. All you can do is choose a decent plumber. But at least the rules are pretty physical and logical.
Build that same house 10 times, it's going to be the same house. It's going to be the same house. Yeah, absolutely. You might have different ground or whatever, but ultimately, but with Google, the world changes so quickly. In fact, the internet and digital marketing in general, things change so quickly. 2 weeks ago, we were all talking about, InLinks is all about trying to get from, doing SEO around keywords to getting SEO around concepts and ideas and topics. Now we've got, Chat GPT that's come along and all of a sudden you can press a button and write the content. Is that good? Is that bad? Well, that's a whole debate for 2023, I'm sure. But it sure as hell changes the game anyway, because if a client wants it fast,
you've got to know where to get it fast. You know, if they want it good, probably they shouldn't have asked for it fast, because they're gonna get caught out. I don't know. So the game changes a lot, and I think that causes some problems. So okay, so we're kind of saying that take some time agency side if you can, because you're going to learn a lot. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
But when you get burnout, going out. I'm not saying you had burnout. Actually, you said you had burnout. Paige. It gets hard. It does get hard.
Yes, it gets overwhelming. Yes,
Yeah,
it does.
Yeah, and you got another decade at it, Katherine. Or, you know, because you're young, you know. But
Oh my god.
Yeah.
But it's also the best time. Like, you've got a team of people around you. You're all working together. The best times I used to have in my team where we'd all go to Brighton SEO all together. We'd have a great time. We'd share learnings and we'd try new things. Like, even if it's not your client that you get to try that thing on, if you're working in a team, someone might get a chance to test that out.
Yeah.
And you all learn from it, and you can all help each other with things like imposter syndrome or updates. Because if you've got 30 clients and 5 have gone down and 25 haven't, what are those 5 doing? Work together.
Yeah, what are doing different? What are they doing different? You've got you're armed with having a lot of sites. You're armed with some stuff there. Yeah, and I think I know that I'm not alone in the sort of the old set, so to speak, of people that went technology side. And when I went from receptional to Majestic, I found that a lot easier, because I knew a lot of stuff, but I wasn't as good at paying attention and getting to the end of I kind of told people I was wearing cobbler's shoes for a while, and I think it helped to go to technology side, so at least I could focus on links in Majestic and entities. Now I'm
plus old SEO wasn't collaborative. I remember my first
that's true
foray into SEO. You didn't work together. If people were doing well, they'd be like, don't look at my thing, I'm doing well.
Wow.
Whereas nowadays it was so hard.
Crazy. How did that work out? I mean, wouldn't it make the work so complicated and stuff?
Well, there were a lot of arrogant people, and I think there still are. I mean, there still are people that want to just keep it all to themselves. They keep their ideas to themselves, or just listen to everybody else's ideas, but not tell anybody about their own. And the thing is, I think, for some people, there's just, if you have one thing that the other person doesn't know, then you've got the chance to win on the search engines. That's the mentality, that if you give it all away, then you can't win. But that's not true. It doesn't seem to be the case. It's not as if, if you're the best, if you're Messi, you still want to give all of that knowledge to the rest of the team and to anybody else that's out there, because it just raises the quality of football. I'm sticking with the football theme for the day, because
it's those 10 houses again, isn't it? Like, you can have findings from what you've done that have worked 10 times, but the 11th time they might just not work, and that's fine, because that's SEO. Sometimes best practice just doesn't
work. Yeah, absolutely. And
you've got to think outside the box.
Getting people to just leap and do something is often the biggest battle in SEO, especially agency side, trying to get the customer to actually do something. And I've got a customer right now, and it's the same challenge. We've kind of done it. Now
I'm in house. I have CMS access.
There you go. So guys, let's do a quick fire round. For you guys personally, what's more important, money or freedom, Paige?
Freedom now.
What about you, Katherine?
Freedom. I really love my peace of mind. To be honest, freedom. Yeah.
Okay. But Paige, you said a button there.
I did, because you have to get to a certain point where you are comfortable, and like, we're going into cost of living crisis. Things are going to be difficult. Like, it has to be money. It's the bell curve, isn't it? You need to earn enough to be okay, and then you can. I think that's agencies all about, isn't it? Like. That hustle culture, get it, do the thing, and then you go, oh, now I can chill.
Okay.
Yeah.
So on that one, then, what do you feel more comfortable with, a fixed salary or results-based income? Oh, Katherine, I'll let you start on that one.
Fixed. I'd prefer fixed salary. It gives you this security, like that at the end of the month or at the end of the year, you have something you're looking forward to. So, but at the same time, I could see how results could be good for some people in the sense that you only get what you work for. But yeah, at this point, I'd say I prefer fixed for the security.
Yeah. Okay. What do you reckon there, Paige?
Oh, definitely fixed. Definitely fixed. My other half is a freelancer, so
Okay.
one of us has to have a fixed income.
Okay.
But I get the results thing. But with SEO, you of course you can guarantee improvement, but can you guarantee improvement to the extent that you would risk your salary on it? I don't think so. Maybe like a bonus base, like a base that's fixed with results-based increases. I think I've done contracts like that agency side as well. But to have it all results-based would be terrifying, because it's that Google update thing again. Like, what happens if it all goes Pete Tong?
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's interesting, because I've always been, I guess, completely results based, because I've always run. I got out of university. I was president of Students' Union for a year, and then set up my own business right from there. I put my first business, my murder mystery games business, £200 loan from the bank. £800 loan, and that was it. I was getting £40 a week from the government to help subsidise, signing up business, and went that way really. And I didn't earn very much money for a long time, really. I mean, never earned very much as running murder mystery games. And then 1999, when I started doing SEO, I was doing that for fun and kind of building up. It took me a while to figure out how to do that. I guess after a while I did start making money with that. Obviously I did, but I'm glad that I went that way. But I went for a long time living on the breadline, and I guess I was lucky because my wife had a good salary.
I was just going to ask, did your household have a fixed income?
She had a good salary, but we did have this time, and it was around about 1999. So my murder mystery games had paid for the honeymoon, so we'd had the wedding and stuff like that, and I'd sort of moved into. Well, I hadn't really figured out how this internet was working, but I was kind of getting there. So I was.
Tell me you bought a house for like 20 grand as well.
The house was 100 grand, 97 grand. It might have been 100 grand, but anyway. And the deposit was bought on credit card because I was self-employed, so I could make up my own salary more or less. So yeah, those were the days. But I remember walking in the fields behind the house, and she just one day, said, "Get your act together, Dixon. You are not." And she was pregnant, so
good woman.
That's when the game changed, because then my focus was, okay, I need to start stop being a kid now, and I need to start being an adult and a dad. And funnily enough, I mean, the plan was for Marie to go back to work after our first child, and she did for about 30 seconds, and then she was pregnant again. So we had both of our kids within 14 months, and that's it. She pretty much never went back to work again. I kind of started, reception started to work properly. I suddenly, when you start focusing on the money, it can work really.
Yeah.
I obviously had been, focusing on other stuff up until then, but I'm not unhappy, because now I think that I'm in a very luxurious position, because I'm at the end of the life, so but no, it's a much more than £100,000 house. It's paid off. I've got a nice car. I've everything's looking good. I just need to not balls it up for the insurance, for the retirement, and I'm okay. So you get that benefit, and at some point, and I don't know where it was, at some point between feeling really, really skint, and now I kind of suddenly felt flush. But I also realized that you don't feel flush, however much money you end up getting. You kind of still scared for the future, really, whether it's for your kids or whatever. So it's hard. Getting that balance right. Okay, so we've done money or freedom, fixed salary. What about doing SEO on lots and lots of sites, or deep diving and just worrying about one or possibly two? So, Katherine, you're on many sites right now. Do you feel you're learning more than deep diving into one?
Absolutely, yes. I'm learning more when I'm working on different websites. So you would see that something that really works well on this website would not really create much impact on another. So working on different websites is really giving me that experience that I need to dive into different stuff and check out how this works and what doesn't work. But whereas if I was actually working on just one website, I believe my knowledge would be a bit limited in the sense I know. And at this stage in my life, I really think I do need that broad experience. So yes, I would definitely prefer working on different websites.
Fair enough. And Paige, but now you've gone to one website, I guess, or I guess one website. Now,
Well,
are there pluses for that?
There definitely are pluses for working on one website, but I completely agree with Katherine. If you're starting off in your career and you want to learn fast and learn a lot, you want exposure to e-commerce sites, B2B websites, all sorts of different websites out there that have completely different things that they need from you as an SEO. You're going to learn so much. But having my sole focus on just one site, which is now going to go international as well, so it's going to be quite a big focus. So it is really good just to like hone in, but only now that I have the confidence and experience of the last 10 years of doing SEO across lots of industries. I just happen to end up in B2B rather than a huge e-commerce website like one of my colleagues. So you just never know where you're going to end up. So if you've got exposure to types of websites, you'll always have that experience.
I think as well, the advantage of being sort of on one website is that you can see the more nuanced objectives of the organization as well. So as an agency, when I was an agency side, you kind of assume that, if you don't get the traffic to the website, then you're going to be sacked next week sort of attitude. And it's not always that obvious, really. And when you're running the business, yes, that SEO is important, and to some people, it's more important than others. But it's not the be all and end all. And it definitely, you see better how the SEO part fits into the greater whole. And you have to be a little bit more pragmatic about, maybe a little bit more understanding of other stakeholders, I guess.
100%. Like agency side, the constant frustration is you send recommendation sits there for a week, 2 weeks, a month. Oh, they're not going to do it. Okay, cool. Great. Okay, here's another recommendation that you'll ignore as well. Being in-house, you're like, I'm not going to settle for this not happening. So I'm going to get CMS access. I'm going to fix those links myself. I have a weekly meeting now that I speak to the sales team, the customer success team, the product marketing team, the marketing team, and I get them all in a Zoom. And we talk about one topic, which is the web page I'm going to optimize. And I want to know any common questions that our customers are asking us. I want to know any things we definitely don't want to talk about because that's technically not what we do. Because these are all the experts. I'm not an expert in what we do yet. Maybe one day I will be. But it's such a different working life, but it is really good.
Brilliant. And it's okay. This is all good, and I think there's bonuses to both approaches. But it means that if you're going to be looking for, for the audience that's looking for their dream job, and we've got the almighty, I hate to say it depends kind of system, but it does seem that if you're starting out, go agency side. Once you've got rid of some of the imposter syndrome, then you can think about going.
Some of them, but not all of them. Some of them.
Never all of them. Never.
What about in a boss? What do you like in a boss? Because if you either way round, unless you're freelance and you're getting out of the whole boss situation, but you still have to work to instructions. What makes a good boss, because obviously a dream job is hugely influenced by, who's telling you what to do and how. Any thoughts on that? Who wants to jump in?
I can jump in. I think it goes to what you were saying earlier, Dixon, about autonomy. My boss currently and my bosses previously have really just left me to my devices. A lot of the time, I'm very much someone who will ask for help if I need it, but clearly we're all very driven people on this podcast, so it's hoping that you have a boss that respects that and is going to leave you to it unless you need that support. Then I want someone who is able to step up, see what the situation is, because sometimes, especially agency side, you just need that senior person to speak to the client, even if they're going to say exactly the same thing you've said. And it's never, it shouldn't be something that's seen as bad. Like if you need that senior person to just give you air cover, they should do that willingly and happily and always have your back.
Katherine, any thoughts?
Yes, yes. I absolutely agree with what Paige said. So I love a bit of room, but I still like the support. The support should be there from when I need it. So I wouldn't like a situation where you would want to speak up for something, but you're boxed in. You're like, oh, we don't want to hear this from you. We only hear this from certain people. No, I want a bit of room to express myself to, okay, so this is what I found and I think it would go like this. Then I would get approval from someone higher or something like that. But yes, the support is definitely important. Yeah.
So that's it's really interesting because I've spent, I would say, 20 years of my working life being a really bad boss. Well, my first 10 years not really making a boss level at all. Then being a really bad boss, and then I took an MBA, and that turned me around quite a lot. I was surprised at how much I turned around because my first degree was maths and management, so kind of like a cheap MBA at the time. Anyway, well, it wasn't cheap MBA; it was good experience, but I didn't really learn how to actually manage anything very well. And I think I was a bad boss because my frustrations. I mean, you could say I had passion. I've always had passion, but when I start shouting, I wasn't necessarily shouting at the person or a person, but when I'm shouting, it just leaves a terrible aura in the room, and doesn't do a good job of leading anybody or anything really.
No,
And
never shout, Dixon. You can play the "I'm disappointed" card. That
occasionally, well,
right in the face.
I did learn quite early on that I need to. I don't let anybody, for years, I've asked people not to send me problems on a Friday because that's when I just go. Because I try and close, I've always tried to close the book up at 5 o'clock on Friday. I just want to switch off and not have anything on my plate over the weekend because that's when the stress comes in, you know. So if I can have everything, and if somebody bats something off to me at 4:10 on a Friday and I now got a new problem to worry about, then I have trouble. So I spent some time trying to do that to stop myself getting irate because I kind of found out that I was always getting irate on a Friday afternoon, and also I was batting off problems to other people and leaving it for them. So I was doing this. I was setting other people a problem on a Friday afternoon, which is also really bad management. So, but the one thing I really learned on the MBA was the power of diversity. I think back in 1999 when I started learning SEO, and I had a little bit, and then I started drawing people in to the SEO world and trying to train them in SEO. But there was a lot of you know, a lot of this and that, and maybe this and maybe that and stuff. And so you kind of had to do it your way or the highway kind of thing. And it wasn't, I hadn't learned the power of diversity of opinion. And it really does make for a stronger team and a stronger product. I mean, at InLinks now, every Monday there's a Monday meeting. I wasn't in it today because I was supposedly on holiday apart from this, so I wasn't there, but they ran the meeting completely, you know, no problem without me, and they will, and those meetings are frank, and you see people putting their ideas out there and the ideas get heard, and I think that they often is not are better ideas than me and my business partner would have had without the team as well. So that has changed, and it's also changed the drive of the team. We've got a much stronger team as a result of that. But it does give another challenge, which I'm going to ask back to you guys, of how then do you want to be measured, or because a boss or an organization still has to have an understanding of whether their team are up to the task. And before COVID, we were all in the office, and you could see that at least somebody was trying. You can't see that, and you don't want to necessarily see that in a this remote situation. So how do you get, or how do you want to get recognized for what you do? Katherine, why don't I start with you on that one?
Okay, just like you mentioned, it could be a bit difficult to assess what someone is doing if you're working in a remote position, right? So, but my recommendation, I would say, if you have something you're working on or an idea or something, I think it's just better to put it out there. It's not something you keep to yourself and say, oh, okay, let me just do this. Maybe later I'll talk about it. No, it at the end of the day is as if you're not doing something, right? So if you have an idea, you have something you're working on, you have things on your plate, just talk about it, update them on the progress. Okay, this is what I've been doing, this is how it's been working, and this is what I'm dealing with right now. It helps. The communication really helps to put everyone at the same level. Like, okay, so this is what she has done or what he has done, and that's cool. But please just don't keep it to yourself. That's my
So,
recommendation.
okay, so your advice there is if you're communicating what you're doing properly to the rest of the team, then
Yes.
you don't need to be judged. The judging is done at that point. You know, you've kind of
Yes, yes, because you're communicating both the results and the progress of the status of the job. So yes, the judging is done. They
good
already
to
have all the information they need to do the judging.
be proactive. That sounds good.
Yes.
Paige, what answer would you give to how do you want to be, judged?
So in my new role, it's been things like getting involved in things outside of my job description. I helped with one of our big in-person events, just behind the scenes, making sure people are happy, making sure the streams are working well. I'm very much someone who likes to get stuck in, but at the end of the day, I need to drive results. I need to be showing that the work that I'm doing is getting more qualified leads through the door at the end of the day. When I was head of department, I could see quite a lot of time you can't guarantee those results if your client isn't going to do what you're recommending. That does happen. It's mind-boggling that someone will pay you thousands of pounds a month and then not do anything, but it does happen a painful amount.
Yeah.
So I did spend a lot of my time protecting teams that I knew were doing everything they could, but that client still wasn't happy or they weren't getting the results that they wanted to see. And completely what Katherine said, if they're communicating with me, we used to have a weekly meeting where they'd run through what they're trying to achieve that week, what do they need to get done, are there any blockers, is there anything they need to escalate to me to get involved with, listening on a call or have a chat with a client or anyone to help them achieve that. And it is hard because you can't guarantee that client's going to do it. That's why it is great being in-house when you just do it.
Yeah. So how are you going to? We haven't got much time left, and I want to bring in Jeannie, who's going to be taking over from me in a little bit. So, she's in here now.
Hey.
So this is Jeannie. Jeannie, this is the Knowledge Panel show. Thank you very much. Will you take over next year, please?
Oh yeah, I'll do that happily, especially after this talk. I mean, honestly, you guys, that was really insightful. I think Katherine, you're frozen, but I mean, I can hear you perfectly well. But
no, that's all right. It's fine.
So I'm waving at you. But yes.
Yes.
Honestly, guys, it was really insightful. It was really, really amazing.
So, Jeannie, you're going to be, taking over a new job. So, hopefully, running a podcast is a new job for 2023 for you. Are you going to make any changes to the way we're running things, or is it going to work much as before?
Well, what a question! I've got to try and not offend the original format while we come in here. No, I guess I think the thing that I'm going to be bringing to this podcast is really just completely virgin eyes on the whole thing. I haven't done as much as Dixon at all. I mean, I was only born when he started the whole thing, so I guess I'm just in awe of everyone that's coming on this podcast and giving their perspective, how we all got here as well. I mean, equally, it's interesting to hear about how Dixon came from, murder mystery games and all of this. And I mean, it did make me kind of angry that he could buy a house for £100,000. I was just put that out there. I mean, I think that's as much rent I pay every month, but that's, yeah. And just to hear about, I mean, your amazing internship, Katherine, and how many, the more people I talk to, the more I just realize everyone's coming from everywhere now, and it's so much different, and there's so much to learn, and it can be quite overwhelming. So I guess what I'm going to do with this podcast is just sit and listen, really, to the best of my ability, and without opening my big mouth, and keep going with it.
Well, Jeannie, we're not going to leave you completely on your own because we've still got David Bain here. So maybe I can bring David in, who's going to be your producer, as you know. And David, firstly, thanks for coming in.
Thanks for turning up. Yeah.
What are you and Jeannie going to be doing in January?
So we've already got a couple of shows planned. The first show that we've got planned is on the 16th of January, 4 p.m. GMT, so usual time, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And that's with 3 experienced heads, Jason Barnard, Pam Unks-Cronin, and C. Shungussi. And we are going to be talking about how to avoid digital marketing burnout. So possibly the beginning of the year, a great time to do that. So if you want to... watch that one live. Make sure you stay tuned to the posts on inlinks.com. And if you go to theknowledgepanelshow.com, you'll be able to be forwarded to a sign-up form and be alerted to when we actually go live for that episode and future episodes.
Okay, that's going to be interesting. Okay, guys, before you go, Paige and Katherine, why don't we, tell us about if anybody wants to get hold of you guys, how do they get hold of you? Twitter, website?
Yeah, Twitter's good. Twitter, LinkedIn. Twitter, I'm at Paige Hobart, really easy to find. LinkedIn.
So for all those
Paige
on
Hobart.
podcasts, it's
Yes.
Paige, PAIGEHOBART. This is the one thing that happens because we all do this on StreamYard and think that all of our audience can hear us, so can see us, but they can't. So okay, brilliant. Okay, Katherine, how do they get hold of you?
Yes, you can find me on LinkedIn with my name, Katherine Nwanorue, and you can find me on Twitter on Katherine, that's Ka3RNE.
Okay. And Katherine
Yes.
Nwanorue is Katherine with a K, and that's Nwanorue, guys. So brilliant.
Yes.
Okay, well, thank you. I've got to say, thank you very much for coming in. I'm delighted that I can now go on my Christmas break and hold up and hang up my my podcasting spurs and say, right, that's another tick that I've done. 30 episodes of podcasts. So 31 onwards. Jeannie, it's all yours from here on in.
There we go, the 31 Club.
Yeah.
Woo-woo!
Bye, guys, and everybody out there. Have a very good Christmas, and thanks very much for joining us. Bye bye.
Thanks for
Thank
having
you
us.
so